All right, class, so today's project we're going to be drawing a scaled, quarter-inch scale drawing of your living room. One of the reasons we're doing your living room is A, it's a room that you're going to be very familiar with, and B, after we add in furniture and you move that around, this is a tool you can use moving forward for finding out the best way to arrange furniture in the living room. So the first step in your first page is drawing what I'm calling a ground plan sketch. So sketch implies it's not precise. So this is part, you don't have to even be in the room if you have a rough idea of what the room looks like. So I'm going to draw my living room as a sketch. So I've got a little hallway, which I'm really not going to need for this project, but just to help me get the sketch done, I'm going to draw in. And then from there, my room is basically a rectangle. I have a closet door right here with one window there, a second window there, a door out to the back door, and do my dashed lines to show the doorway. And then there's an opening right here in the wall that's kind of like a window that looks into the kitchen. So I'm just going to draw it like a window, even though there's no glass there. And then right here, from this corner of the wall to about here, is just open, and it just walks into the dining room. So I'm going to treat it like a giant archway. Just do dashed lines of an archway, like that. And so very quickly, I was able to give a rough drawing. And see, I didn't use straight edge for this. It is extremely crude, extremely crooked, but I have a rough outline of what the living room looks like. So this is my sketch. I'll take this home and measure all the points that I need to recreate it in scale. So I take that, and then I'll find out that this overall wall right here is 13 feet, whereas this wall right here is 20 feet. Now from that I can roughly draw the rectangle of the room, but I need to know how far over windows and how far over the door and how much space between the windows are. So I need to measure all those little in-between spots. So I know this door is 3 feet, this window is about 3 feet, and this window is about 2 feet, and then this door is about 3 feet. This window is about 4 feet. This opening here is 6 feet. And this space right here is about 13 feet. There's 4 feet there, 7 feet there, 2 feet there. This little corner right here from the door to the wall, it's like a 1 foot 6 inches. And then down here comes out to about 9 inches, or 9 feet, not inches. And so you just go around and you find what all the measurements are for your room. So once you have the rough outline and you've gone and you've measured all these details, you can then do your scale drafting. To do the scale drafting, we first need a drafting plate. So we get another blank piece of paper. Now, I did my sketch on blank white paper because that's what I had. Since it's just a sketch, that can be on lined notebook paper. It doesn't matter. It's just a reference for you to use. The drafting, quarter inch scale drafting has to be on blank white paper, and you have to have a drafting plate. To do the drafting plate, the first step is we're going to put a border all the way around the page that's going to be about 1/4 of an inch from the outside edge. So I'm going to measure top down 1/4 of an inch, put a light little dot over here, down 1/4 of an inch, put a little dot, and then from the edge I'm going to measure out. I'm going to line my ruler up to those 2 dots, measure out 1/4 of an inch, and so that dot actually lined perfectly up. Over here, I need to go in a little bit from where I put my first dot. And then now that I've got a dot on both sides, it's 1/4 of an inch from the top and 1/4 of an inch from the side. Line up my ruler. And I draw the first line. And you're just going to do that all the way around. So I'm going to come around to the bottom side, do that same thing. I'm going to measure 1/4 of an inch down, and then 1/4 of an inch in. And then this other corner, quarter of an inch down, and 1/4 of an inch in. And since I'm already lined up, my dot on the other side, I can go ahead and draw that. So then I'll draw quarter of an inch there. Quarter of an inch there. So now I have nice, neat, because I use the straight edge to give myself straight lines, border that goes around the page. So now in the bottom right hand corner, I need to put a title block. Title block goes on all draftings so that we know what this page is and what information it's giving us. So for that, I need to measure over 2.5 inches. I need to get a different ruler because that one's messed up. So I'm going to measure we're coming down to this bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to measure along the bottom line 2.5 inches. I'm going to put a little mark there for, and then I'm going to go up the side. First I'm going to go up 1/4 of an inch, put a little mark, and then I'm going to put a mark at the 1 inch. Then I'm going to come over to that original mark I made, and I'm going to put a mark at every 1/4 of an inch. So I'll go up 1/4 of an inch, put a mark, up another 1/4 of an inch, another, actually, let me rephrase that. Draw the 1 inch line, and then mark a little line at each 1/4. And then I'm going to connect it across the top. And I'm going to connect at the bottom when I went up 1/4 of an inch from the bottom on both sides. I'm going to connect those. And I need to cut this bottom one in half. So 2.5 divided in half is 1 1/4 inches. So I'll have that cut in half. Along this top line from my border, I'm going to measure over 1/2 inch and make a little mark. And down below 1/2 inch, make a mark. And I'm going to connect those two marks to form a box that should be 1/2 inch by 3/4 of an inch. And then these two marks that I made earlier that were at 1/4 inch spacings, I'm going to go ahead and bring those the rest of the way over. And so that is my title block, and this is how your title block will be set up for pretty much everything we do. The top line is always the name of the project. So this project is Living Room Drafting, and remember, always write everything in all capitals. And then the second line is the name of what is this drawing. This drawing is going to be living room ground plan. It's kind of hard to do at an angle. And I'm going to run out of room because I wrote that too large. But you get the idea. Next line is going to be your name. So for me, it's Mr. K's, but I'm just going to write in here your name. This is how I know who to give credit for. Bottom, these two boxes at the bottom, first one is always going to be the scale that we're drawing in. And pretty much everything we're going to draft is going to be in 1/4 inch scale, so you're going to write scale colon 1/4 inch equals 1 foot 0 inches. And then here you're going to write in the date. Now don't put today's date. Don't put the date it's due. You put the date that you complete it on, or the date you turn it in. And the reason for that is if a designer has to go in and make changes to a design, they change the date, showing that this is the more recent and up-to-date drawing to be using. And then in this square here, you're going to write 1 of 1. Since we're only doing 1 page, it's just 1 of 1. If we were doing 5 pages, it'd be 1 of 5, 2 of 5, 3 of 5, and so forth. And by that, you should have your drafting plate. And from here, we'll do the scale drawing. All right, so we have our drafting plate to do our scale drawing. We have our sketch with all the measurements we wrote in. So now we're going to start drawing in scale. So since every foot of this, in reality, I'm going to draw using a 1/4 of an inch. So every 1/4 of an inch on the ruler will represent 1 foot. Now I can sit here and count out each 1/4 of an inch all the way up to 20 for that 20-foot wall. Or I can use the scale ruler page that we all used earlier on the other assignments. Remember, the top ruler is 1 inch equals 1 foot. The middle ruler is 1/2 inch equals 1 foot. And the bottom ruler is 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. This is the one we're going to use. To use this to its best advantage, if you fold it very nicely and crisply all the way across the top edge of the ruler. Now I have a ruler. I don't have to do calculations because 10 feet is 10 feet. 8 feet is 8 feet. Now the 9 foot's not written, but it's clearly the long line that's in between the 8 and the 10. Those 3 lines that are in between the feet, it's 3 inches, 6 inches, and 9 inches. For this project, you can round to whichever is the closest. You don't have to try to get in between there even though the ruler has those lines in there, you just round it to the nearest one that we can do. So for my example, looking at my sketch reference, for the most part, I need a box that's 20 by 13, give or take. So that's what we're gonna first start, is by just drawing the outside edge in scale. So I'm going to try to center this as best I can. My longest wall is 20 feet, so I want that to be going along the paper, the longest side of the paper. So I'm going to try to center it as best I can estimate. And now I can just make a mark at the 0 point and then a mark at the 20 mark. And then I can bring in my ruler and draw that in with the plastic hard edge ruler. Or, since I have this paper that's fairly straight where I folded it, I can actually just use the paper edge to draw my line. And then I'm going to come down 13 feet. Actually, I'm going to come down to the 13 mark and go up. And then I'm going to continue that all the way around. Okay. So now I have a 1/4 inch scale rectangle that is roughly the size of my room. So now from there I can measure out the rest of the things. So for instance, the back door over here I know is 1.5 inches down to get to the door. Or not, sorry, 1.5 feet. So I can use the scale ruler to find 1 foot and then 6 inches. So that's where my door has to start. And then the door is 3 feet. So I slide down the 0 and then mark the 3. So that's how wide the door is. And remember, we draw our doors by drawing the casing going out from behind the wall. And then we do dashed lines to show that that is a space that gets walked between. And then I can just come through and erase some of the lines and go back over a little bit. And so now I have a walkway that goes out. I need to draw in the actual door. So I go from the hinge, measure out 3 feet, and then I draw in the arch of the swing of the door. Now I've got my back door. And now I've got to go over 4 feet of spacing to get to my window. And then my window is 3 feet. And windows, we're drawing casing, and this doesn't have to be an exact, we're just kind of estimating the depth of that, and then drawing it in. And I'm going to measure out again from there, 7 feet. That's where the next window starts. And then that window is only 2 feet. It's much smaller. And then draw the window casing. And then my window. And then I just continue that on around for the rest of the room. Come over on this side. And let's see, what was that one? It starts about here and is 3 feet. The door swings that way. Here I'm going to use the and so forth. Now, right here, I have a walkway that just goes down what was a hallway. I know I need to measure up 3 feet, more or less, at the start of that hallway. And then that hallway is about, let's see, it's about 5 foot gap. And so I'm going to mark it right there. So I've got, went up a little bit here, and I've got the other side of this hallway here, and so I'm going to draw out the casing. And since this is just an open walkway, there's no door or anything, we're going to treat it like an archway. And we're just going to have our casing and then our dashed lines. And I'm going to go through and dash the line I already had there. And so that'll act like that. And likewise over here, from the edge of the wall over to about, let's see, what is it? About 6 foot. And so not a straight line. We're doing dashed lines. So if you have a more open space, just big walkway, so where you draw a line, a dashed line wherever the living room ends and then the next room begins. So mine's only part of the wall is open. Some of y'all, probably the entire length of the wall may be open for your room. And that's pretty much it. You don't draw the furniture in this. We're gonna leave it blank. You don't write in the measurements, because if you drew this to scale and I need to know that measurement, I just come in with the scale ruler and check the measurements. And so you go off and do this, and the next step will be furniture. Alright, so here I've already kind of started some basic furniture pieces. So this is like a generic looking couch. So this represents the seat area, and then the arm and back and the other side of the arm. This doesn't have to be drawn exactly like your couch is. This is just for a generic rectangle shaped couch. It makes it easy to tell that's the couch without necessarily writing on couch, whereas like the TV stand here and the bookshelf look pretty much the same, so then those I have them labeled. This is a small chair, and then this is a bigger comfy chair. So you can just do, so this is like one of those wing-backed armchairs. So you could do it just as a square, or if you wanted to, you could do kind of like with the couch. And draw in not like that. Draw kind of the arms and back on that to show that it's a bigger style chair. If you have like an L-shaped sectional couch, same thing, you would do this to the actual scale, but just to kind of show you roughly what it's going to do. So once again, it's made to look like one of those sectional couches. And here's the arm and back that comes around, and then a little lounging part that sticks out there. If your sectional couch, there's only one way to configure it, then I'd suggest just cutting it out as one big piece. But if you have one of those that you can kind of move this piece over here and that piece over there and make different configurations, you might want to cut this out where the couch segments, so that as you're moving it from one side to the other, you can reconfigure it the way you would actually reconfigure your couch. And so you would take these and you cut them out. You remember, draw these in 1/4 inch scale. So you need to know what's the length and width. I don't care about the height. Bookshelf, TV stand, they're totally different heights, but on here, I just need the length and width of them for this part. And then this little triangle piece is a little art sculpture that I have in the corner of my house. So, next step, we're gonna cut these out and then see what they look like in the room. All right, so I've cut out the furniture pieces we drew, and now I've placed them in the room, roughly about where they would be. And so you're gonna do this, and so in theory, this is where this furniture is in my living room at the current time. And then you're gonna take a picture of this with your phone, and you'll put this on a Google slide. Then you're going to reconfigure the room. You're going to move it around, be like, you know what, instead of the TV there, I want the bookshelf there, and I want the TV on this other wall. Well, I'm just gonna turn TV and bring it closer over here. And then I'm gonna move this little corner statue, and I'm gonna stick it in this other corner. And this little chair is gonna just go against this wall up by the window, and then this big armchair is gonna go in corner over there. So you could do something like that. But there's problems here. For instance, this corner statue, I can't put it here because it doesn't fit with the door there. And I can't put it in this other corner because of this closet door that I have right here. So you can see it now the door opens up into it. There really isn't a corner here. So I could put it there, but it's gonna just look weird. Unless I have another bookshelf going into this other room that can kind of back up against it. But I might not have that ability for what's in this room, this additional room that comes out through here. So really the only good place for this statue is over here. Now, instead of me moving this electronic statue into every single corner of the room, since I drew that piece of furniture to scale and the room is drawn to scale, I've just now placed it in the 4 corners of the room and found that it really only fits in this one corner. And so now I can just leave it there and I don't ever have to move it around. Likewise, this is kind of probably wouldn't be that close, but this is kind of a weird place to have a couch being in the walkway coming into the dining room area. But maybe we pull the couch further back. Maybe we put couch over here, the TV over here, and the bookcase right there. Maybe the 2 chairs come over to this wall, so you have a nice little seating area instead of the chairs being around the couch. You have a little seating area where you can have two people sit and chat and talk. I still have a nice open walkway. Yeah. So that's what you're gonna do. So I've now created a secondary living room setup, and I would take a picture of this with my phone and put that on that same Google slide. So I'll have a Google slide image of the way the room currently is, and then next to it have an image of this secondary layout. So we kind of see a before and after changing the room up. And then once you have that, you submit that image that shows the two different layouts of your room. And from now on, you now have scaled furniture for the scaled living room. And anytime you want to rearrange stuff and just, because I know that can't ever be anywhere else. I know even if I wanted to block off this closet door, I can't put my couch here because it goes past, it would stick out past this walkway here, unless there was something that kind of happened to be along that wall there. Likewise, I know I can't really put the couch over here because of that door. So this gives you lots of different ways of playing with room setups. Maybe I just don't even want to have that little corner sculpture anymore. I want to put the TV at an angle here. And I want to put a couch there. Or maybe you've got that big sectional couch, which in this room, because I live in a tiny house, there's no way I could have something like, unless I just completely block off the back door and never use it. Be the only way I could have a couch this size. But you get the gist. You now have a way to rearrange furniture in your house and come up with some different. Now, in real life, I could say I don't want to use this corner statue, but for your project, any pieces that you made that are currently in your room, you need to find a place for it. So you have to use all the pieces that you started off with for your secondary look. All right, now go forth and make great things.